Home decided to watch some TV, listening to the news by Gordon Mosley, and listening to the things that he say he tracking tonight, paying close attention to make sure I hear it right. But when I hear the things that he mentioned on the news, I had to declare them kind of thing got me confused. I hear some things where the ERC noticing, and it convinced people that people they learning nothing. We hear so many times about them big name calling, and they say we are still pretend that they didn't learn nothing. But once you're black and you just decide to say a word or two, bet your life on that. They say we are still coming for you. Listen to the things you just hear on social media. Only one set of people allowed to talk in one Guyana. I still say nothing, black people in learning. But this is my concern. I hope one day black people will learn. ERC that I would like to know, if any of its members happens to be black people, and if that is the case, I want them to answer this call. Tell me how come none of them ain't got no voice at all. You're showing signs of weakness and you're afraid to be fair, and we see the same thing keep happening year after year. And the day will come when all this nonsense will stop. That will be the day when black people decide to wake up. Not so long ago, something terrible happened. This young Indian man want to kill out all black people by poison. But if his shoes was on the other foot, would have been a big trip. But up to this day, this ERC can do nothing as yet. How come it's only black people committing cybercrime? Then pretty on social media fussing people all the time. I still saying black people in learning, but one day will come when the entire table will turn. Issues we see they fail to condemn, because these people think that the law is only for them. And anybody else who decide to file a complaint, they go call you a racist and don't want to hear nothing. Plenty complaint from time to time has been brought to their attention, but because of this one-sided cybercrime is why they don't show any concern. There's only one set of people that they really care about, and black people must take the abuse and shut them out. Me that he Amsterdam went to go just recently for an issue that was highlighted by the same ERC. And with pretext the police decide to jump on his case. Without a search warrant, they went and search up the man's place. Let us all agree that black people under attack. Different laws for you and me just because we black. I still singing, black people in London. To all my black friends, we must put a stop to all this nonsense. Cybercrime laws to keep people silent, just to make sure nobody criticizes this government. And while that is a very clear case of dictatorship, it is no surprise that the ERC ignoring it. Why only the chosen few is allowed to have things their way, when people like me and you must have nothing to say? And when ministers in the government start to launch their attack, you never hear this ERC come out and talk about that. They send a policeman all the way to New York. This fella went up there to serve a customer on Rick Forward. Under this thing, this government decide to fabricate a case, but like they forget the warning they get from black t-shirt jails. The vice president described that he use a shallow life. Because of this kind of abuse, he don't have a wife. I still singing, black people in learning. Just the other day, I hope your man see help is on the way.
It's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday with Al Christie and popular DJs at Club Twilight Sideline down Buxton North.
Trust me, if you are on the East Coast, you're in Buxton, you're in Tongue, you're looking for a place to get away to, this is the place. The Cutters, and then of course the ambience is beautiful, fully air conditioned, the decor is on point, the music's on point, everything's on point. So if you want to find a nice little place where you can just drive out of town and have some drinks, have some food, you can call, you can order your stuff and just take it. You don't have to stay. Or if you want to stay here, that's what's up. And of course, they have special events for Valentine's. You can rent a hall. You can rent a hall, honey. You can rent a hall for weddings, for birthday parties, to have a bash. I hope he edits that out. But you know, whatever it is, this is definitely the place to be. So it's on Sideline Dam. You definitely want to ensure that you check this place out. But it's on your to-do list. All right, on your to-do list. This is definitely the place to check out, you know, a really cool, chill spot here in Buxton. I like this. This is Buxton needed this. We needed this. I needed this. You definitely needed too. All right, so today we are here at Club Twilight up in Buxton, and we are here to talk about all that's going on up here. Trust me, if you are on the East Coast, you're in Buxton, you're in Tongue, you're looking for a place to get away to, this is the place. The Cutters, listen, I'll be having some just now again. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, the ambience is beautiful, fully air conditioned. The decor is on point. The music's on point. Everything's on point. It's just me. I need some work, but everything else that belongs to this club here is on point. So if you want to find a nice little place where you can just drive out of town and have some drinks, have some food, you can call, you can order your stuff and just take it. You don't have to stay. Or if you want to stay here, that's what's up. And of course, they have special events for Valentine's. You can rent a hall. You can rent a hall, honey. You can rent a hall for weddings, for birthday parties, to have a bash. I hope he edits that out. But you know, whatever it is, this is definitely the place to be. So it's on Sideline Dam. You definitely want to ensure that you check this place out. But it's on your to-do list. All right, on your to-do list. This is definitely the place to check out, you know, a really cool, chill spot here in Buxton. I like this. Buxton needed this. We needed this. I needed this. You definitely needed too. Thank you.
Stop running around like headless chicken. Go to Ashton's Marketplace for whole and cut chicken, beef, pork, processed meats like bacon, beef franks, smoked ham, ground pork, calabresa, and lots more. Ashton's offers wholesale and retail. Check them out. Call 613-2332 or WhatsApp 434-327-3955. Ashton's Marketplace at 72 Rob Street, Border.
All right, so you might be wondering where we are. Still in Buxton at Club Twilight. That's where we are. So Club Twilight also has like an Airbnb as well. So you could come, drink, drunk, and come in the back here and lie down. Look at that. Look at that. Perfection. And the people come in the room and so on. The bed sheet matching the blind, matching the carpet, matching the this, matching the that. We know but we things in Buxton don't play with we. So definitely if you want to come and you know you may be having a wedding or whatever and you just want to overnight and just have a good time because you're going to be drunk. We got too much road accidents. So you definitely want to come drink, have a good time. They have several rooms that you can rent. You have your toilet, you have your bath, you have your sink, you have your dining area, you have the bed. This is nice. I like it. Anyways, to my friends and my family, if you're looking for me, I'll be overnighting. Also for those persons who are traveling in from overseas, you want a nice, cozy place out of town, then Club Twilight, call them up, look them up on social media. They have their own Facebook page and ensure that you come up the side and have a good time. Have a good time. Have a good time. Sorry. I'm sorry. That's it.
Don't be a victim. Beat the heat with EC Crystals. Party ice in large and small quantities. Call 682-7981 or visit us at Club Twilight, Sideline Dam, Buxton North. EC Crystals, pure party ice. You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the East Rheinveld Market Meat Section. Call us on 609-7168, 641-4494. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop for the best in fresh cut meats and lots more. Planning a party? Worry no more. We have all the supplies you need. At EC Party Rentals, we have folding chairs, folding tables, square tables, round tables, long tables, short tables, big tables. We have chairs, red chairs, gold chairs, white chairs, crystal chairs, chairs of all type, throne chairs. What you want, we have. Food warmers, coolers, ice, beverages. At EC Party Rentals, we have what you need to have a good time. You plan the party, we do the work. Call us 622-5933. EC Party Rentals. Let's keep your party going. Morning, little morning, are you morning? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. I wish the PNC when they go on to the float parade will use this song as the road march song. This song is a bass. What I'm saying, this is a bass song, man. I love it, I love it, I love it. I'm asleep to hear it. Y'all play this song more and more for me. Every opportunity you get, you play this song. Let this song resonate with the public. A lot of truths are inside. Oh yeah, how was y'all last night? How was y'all yesterday? How y'all feeling this morning? What were you able to achieve yesterday that, you know, gave you hope that things are going to be okay? Yeah, talk to me. Are you able to make some money? I mean, outside of the 9 to 5. Because the 9 to 5 really in the main hustle. 9 to 5 is making too much sense, you know. Hope you all doing the side hustles, legal side hustles, you know. Not being used as tools and pawns. I saw a movie the other night. What's it called? Life of a King. Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen Life of a King with Cuba Gooding? Yeah, Cuba Gooding. Yeah, Life of a King. First movie I saw with Cuba Gooding was coming out. Well, I know coming out. I don't know how many of you saw that one, but the guy is an interesting actor. But Life of a King, there's some quotes you know, that really come to mind. When you think you're dear, you know, doing your thing, all you're doing really and truly is protecting the life of the king and putting yours at risk. Morning showering, Greaves. I think Greaves realized that by now. Like a lot of other foot soldiers, Uncle Tom's house slaves will come to realize when they think that they're doing as they like, all they're doing is putting their lives at risk to protect the king. Every time I hear about certain things, contracts going to African Guyanese, multi-million dollar contracts going to African Guyanese, I always ask you the question. As a reminder, I will repeat it. Who are the beneficial owners? Who are the beneficial owners? Well, I can tell you Claude Biram or Claude Biram. This song was done by Claude Bascom. I hope I remember the man's name. He has been kind enough to do this song and give it to us at Cams TV to play. I don't know that it's on sale. I'll have to contact him. He might be listening for, you know. Well, if you're listening, let's know if this song is on Apple Play or wherever you guys, Spotify and so on. Yeah, one of our viewers very early recommended that you put it on Spotify, I think. I make some money with it. But I will also say that my name is in songs, so I'm looking for my cut. Well, I gotta where's the thing? I gotta copyright my name. Because my name is a big name now, you know. Yeah, I gotta copyright my name. Can you do any such thing? You could copyright your name. I gotta copyright my name, but because royalties gotta pay. Good? Royalties gotta pay. Nevertheless, I think a lot of us or every time I hear about a big contract going to an African Guyanese and so on, or some facilities from this government, I ask the question, who are the beneficial owners? Who's the power behind this deal? Especially when you look at excellent. When you look at these folks, these front men and women, these facades, you recognize Yesterday they didn't get, as old people would say, a pot to piss in. They ain't got a pot to piss in. In other words, they ain't got access to the kind of resources to fund the projects that they're fronting. Right? You have to ask yourself, who are the beneficial owners? And you got to go deeper. You got to dig deeper. But a lot of us here in this country, we are so fearful. We are so scared. We don't like digging. Maybe we find when we dig, we end up in some hole. And that's a possibility too, because we live in a murderous state. A state where murder is condoned by the politicians, especially those in government. I mean, I say those in government, it goes two ways, right? Those who are in opposition now were once in government. And those who are in government now were once in opposition. So I'm sure we can find some guilty ones on both sides of the aisle, quite frankly, who either were intellectual authors of misbehavior or are themselves involved in these misbehaviors. But that shouldn't stop us as citizens from doing just by our society, from doing what we are supposed to do, taking our responsibility and taking it seriously. See something, say something. Be a whistleblower. Right? Maybe you don't want to be the one in front of the news. You don't want to be the news, but you can supply the news. And so that those of us who have the gumption, the balls to put it out there, we'll put it out there without compromising it. Quite a lot being revealed recently over this land deal. And I am still waiting to see when African Guyanese leaders and African Guyanese are really going to get really, really angry. Really, really angry. And really, really confront this government on the management and distribution of our land resources. Right? I see Joseph Winslow. I'm gonna name them, it's three of them. Joseph Winslow, anyhow, let me not waste too much time on them. I recognize at least two of them already for the morning, asking about the coalition in government and lands and so on and so forth. There's no when the coalition was in government, they favored people they gave lands to. But there's also no doubt that they didn't dispossess people of lands. Those of you representing the PPP, name one Indian family that the coalition pushed off of land in the name of development. Much less. More than a dozen families like they did in Caneville. Caneville. Name them. Name one Indo-Guyanese, quote-unquote, entrepreneur who the coalition went after with a vengeance to reclaim large swaths of land that was given to them just before the 2015 election. Y'all remember just before the 2015 election how the PPP went on a giveaway spree? You all remember, I think, yeah, that might be the 2015 election too. All the radio stations, all the, what we call them, the frequencies were given away by the PPP just before the elections. And the coalition didn't go after those things. They didn't try to take them back, which I think they should have. Quite frankly, I think they should have. Do you know the number of radio stations or frequencies that Robert Prasad allegedly owned on the different persons' name, on the front men and women? Even under some cultural something associated with maybe the PPP. Do you know all of the coalition in government had all of that information? They didn't go after them. They didn't take them back. That's one of the feelings. African Guyanese dominated government, if you ask me, has been too forgiving over the years. Forgetful and forgiving, just like black people. African Guyanese, they behave the same in government, they behave outside the government, as if they have no power. They don't use it to set things right. And I tell you all every day, I say it every day. Give me the power. Oh, let the power fall on I for I. Let the power fall on I. Give me the power. Let me hunt them down. I don't care what you say. Witch hunting, bitch hunting, wizard hunting. I don't care you say. Give me the power. Let hunt them down. And reclaim those large swaths of land that were questionably allocated to them, regardless of what they call themselves: businessmen, conmen, Ponzi scheme operators, doctors, wizards and witches. I don't care what you call it. Because if it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck. It got to be a duck. So if it looks like corruption and you're seeing all the indicators of corruption, then you go after it as a corrupt transaction. You go after it as a corrupt transaction. Right now, sorry, Burkina Faso, I constantly refer to that 35-year-old leader, because that's what he is. It is said that he has frozen, I think, about 130 accounts, bank accounts of individuals and organizations. Because since he's taking over the reins of governance in Burkina Faso for about 2 years now, the number of assassination attempts that were made on him, you know, at first, of course, it was protect yourself at all times. But then once you have established the systems, I would think, to protect yourself, the next thing is to flush out the enemies. And so he has moved from that stage of maybe protecting himself at all times to really working to find out who these enemies are. And one of the first things he decided, let us follow the money. Let us follow the money. And by following the money, they were able to recognize who large amounts of money have been going to over specific periods of time. And so they were able to make the association between who the enemy state is and who the enemy operatives are, and who is funding who. And so they froze those accounts because they followed the money. You're telling me that in this country of ours, we can't follow the money? We had State Asset Recovery Agency, SARA. Sarah was following the money to some extent. Sarah followed and found the money in Curacao, that large gold smuggling operation. Sarah followed and found the money in a lot of underground operations. So that's what we got to do. As a new government, the coalition in government again has to follow the money. And not just follow it, but reclaim it. Reclaim it. I always talk about the drug wars when the US and so on were really going after the drug lords. One of the things was the informants were able, to some extent, to buy their properties for peanuts, cents on the dollars. When we reclaim some of the properties acquired through corrupt means in this country, we must put them to the use of the populace. More hostels and so on for the children and the dispossessed. All them vagans we got all over the place. So y'all do them. Y'all give me the power, man. I want it. Let's go after them. My intent yesterday was to show the Travis Chase interview to you. I mean, a lot of you might have seen it, eh? I wonder. I don't know if you've seen it, but I want to show it to you. I want us to take our time and analyze all of the information inside. Right? All of the information. And when a corrupter or corrupted labels a country as corrupt, old people say, if alligator there bottom a river and he come and he tell you, "Pat, we get teeth," believe him.
MD, FAFP, an active practicing physician in Queens, New York. And I've been doing this since April the 1st, 1994. And I've continued to do this unabated with my license intact. I'm a US citizen. I'm by no means under any sort of flight risk. And I see the things that are being published. But I'm so thankful, Mr. Chase, for you to accommodate me on a very short notice. And I intend to be of much help as you can to you and your followers in terms of clearing my name, especially the one that was highlighted so much in terms of something to do with human trafficking and abuse. And I want the interview to develop so I can tell you who I am, where I came from in Guyana, what is my mission in Guyana, how much I've contributed in Guyana.
Right, we'll get to all of those, Dr. Baldu, but first we want to address the issues at hand.
Thank you.
Is it not true that you have acquired land on the Heroes Highway?
Yes, I've acquired land on the Heroes Highway.
Right.
And let me elaborate on that.
1 second. What is the name of the company on which you acquired the land in the Heroes Highway?
The land on the Heroes Highway was acquired on the Harry Development, Inc.
Harry Development, Inc.
Yes.
That land, as we speak, is currently being developed.
Yes, it is.
Oh, good. So I want to know how you acquired that land.
I bought that land from the owners of the land from an LLC, or an INC, I'm sorry.
Okay. So you have no ties to new concept investment or luxury investment?
Luxury investment is my real estate company. That in 2013, I bought 30 acres of land in Providence. And it's anecdotal. It is going to be interesting to see how this was purchased. Given enough time, I will elaborate on that further.
This is the Richmondville scheme you're talking about?
Luxury Inc. Yes.
Mm-hmm. You were taken to court for that matter, that Luxury Investment Inc. apartments in Richmondville. You were taken to court for that.
I think, yes, I think.
Right. So the residents of Richmondville apartment had accused you in that lawsuit of neglect, especially as it relates to the roads, correct?
I can elaborate on
if you can just answer me, then you'll be given time to elaborate.
In its entirety, yes, one or two disgruntled members, but I've met with them since, and we're working out a solution of having those roads fixed.
Let's deal with the solution for a bit. The court ordered you to fix the roads, correct?
The court eventually ordered us to fix the road, or my employees to fix the road. Monies were allocated. The monies were not sent directly to fixing of the roads. However, let me explain to you that in 2013, I'm a practicing physician in New York City.
Yeah, we established that.
I've been doing that for the last 35 years.
We've established that. Let's deal with the road.
So in addition to that, in 2013, I bought 30 acres of land from CHP at the price in which it was fair market value, but possibly maybe a
fair. What was the
fair market value?
What was the
cost? I paid over $2.8 million for acquisition.
2.8 million?
About that, including attorney fees and closing costs. And I spent another $2 million developing that piece of land. During the interim intergovernmental changes, the price of property decreased, and I thought I may very well end up losing my loans from the bank in the United States to purchase those lands, but I still continue to develop it because I think I owe the persons that, and I did the best job I can.
Is this Chase Bank?
And this was not a Guyanese bank.
Is this Chase Bank in New York?
No, it was not.
Which bank are you referring to?
I have several banks I deal with. It could have come from my TD account, it could have come from Bank of America, and it could have come from Merrill Lynch. But what I was saying to you, Mr. Chase, because you alluded to something about lawsuit, after owning that place for 10 years, spending enormous amount of money from my medical practice and from my real estate investment in United States, all I can hear about is the little rose. There are persons who bought lands from me at 7 million Guyana dollars and are selling them for over 70 million Guyana dollars.
Dr. Baldio.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Baldio. Just a second.
Yes, sir.
I don't want us to stray here.
No problem, sir.
Number one, you admitted that the government, that the courts instructed and ordered that you do the roads, correct?
Yes, they did.
1, 2. My question therefore is, why is the government now doing the road in Richmondville?
I have no particular answer to that. I will refer that back to my counsel and we'll get a response to you within 72 hours.
But you are aware that the government is doing the road?
I have no formal writing or ordinance from anyone that the government.
But this is your land. This is your land.
But so is the fact that I live in the United States of America.
And you're not aware.
My total visits to Guyana in the first 8 years of owning that property, let me say until last 2 years, has been like one visit every 6 to 8 months. Recently, I've increased my visits.
So here it is, Dr. Baldio.
Yes, sir.
How many acres of land and where do you own in Guyana?
I can have my attorney put that together, but I can tell you anecdote.
Why I stop it? As I want to ask you all this. The Richmond scheme or whatever they call it. 30 acres of land developed by Baldio. Gated community or whatever it is. The courts instructed that they fix the road. Private investors fix the road. The government of Guyana is fixing the road. Do you believe that this guy is the beneficial owner or sole beneficial owner of that 30-acre estate? Who in the government of Guyana will instruct that roads in a private estate be fixed with the monies that belongs to the state? If you think it's possible, then answer this. Why doesn't the government of Guyana utilize the monies of the citizens of Guyana in the consolidated fund, etc., to fix the roads in all of those private housing schemes which fall under co-ops? Well, listen, y'all talk to me. How many of you are cooperators living in cooperative schemes and the roads are in such bad state or in really, really deplorable states But you hear every day, the government will not fix it because it is co-op holdings. Co-op holdings. Y'all tell me. And when y'all get the answers to that, tell me or find a plausible explanation as to why the government of Ghana, the people of Ghana's money, is being used to fix the roads in this Richmond estate. Whatever the 30-acre property holdings is called. Who are the beneficial owners? Is Baldio another pawn, or is just another part, a player in the whole land grab, thieving government money scheme that is being highlighted here? Back to the tips.
Totally. The 30 acres at Richmondville, that was my development, only personal development.
That's one.
I've also engaged over the last, I think, 2 years, is the basically acquisition of a total cost of close to $10 million US in properties that are being developed and are building for me on Heroes. So acquiring land is not the modus operandi all the time.
No. I'm not saying that.
I engaged him in a contract to purchase them once he's finished. And that is the tune of over $6 million Guyana dollars. And to tell you the truth, sir, one of the reasons I'm going to be here as well is we want to set up an Afro-Guyanese centric restaurant in one of those buildings. And I'm hopeful to meet with the head of state. Baldio. No, I'm going to tell you, sir. I'm going to tell you.
I understand. We're going to elaborate on those later.
Thank you, sir.
I am asking you specifically,
yes,
about the lands that you acquire in this country.
Yes.
And you wanted to address the fact that you were saying that you have not donated any monies to any political parties in Guyana.
That's the other question you're coming to.
Hold on. Just now, Dr. Baldio, we're going to get there.
Yes.
So you're telling me that you have not donated monies to any political parties in Guyana? Yes, no?
I can answer you, Mr. Chase, but give me some time.
Okay.
My years in Guyana is not just yesterday. I've donated money to PNC APNU. I've given money directly to that party. I've given money directly to PPP, albeit not a lot. The usual way is when they come to New York City, the politicians from Guyana would walk through Liberty Avenue. And if you have an established business, and Dr. Balde Medical Services has been there since 1993, I was the owner. I was the person who started it, and the person who employed an enormous amount of Guyanese, especially when our country was not as affluent as it is today. In those times, it was considered the barrel economy, where Richmond Hill and some parts of Brooklyn
Dr.
were
Baldio,
contributing to. No, I'm going back to that. How I donated. I didn't come to Guyana with a paper bag to donate to politicians.
Right. The history of New York City and Guyana, I'm really not interested in. You made some comments on Facebook, and I'm giving you the opportunity to.
Can I drink this?
Of course you can. Sir. I'm giving you the opportunity to defend yourself, and I'll give this interview the same prominence as I've given the story on Facebook. You said that you are tied to which 2 companies in Ghana?
Luxury Realty is my company that bought Richmond, that bought those lands and Providence in 2014.
Right.
Harry Development is my new company that has purchased lands on, not lands and Heroes, it's bought 2 buildings on Heroes for a total value of $6+ million. And I've invested heavily into this country, following the call of His Excellency that Guyanese come back home and invest, and being a patriarch of Guyanese, not since PPP came to power, but even on the last administration was in Guyana, many times asking them to do development in other parts of Guyana. I got a scholarship partially from Guymine. And when I went to Mr. Trotman and also Mr. Bulkan and asked them, can I spend my money, my philanthropic monies that I want to spend in my homeland? If I'm able, you can provide the land, I will provide the money and build 25 houses at the same time, because I lived at Amelia's Ward in Linden for 6 years. And it's the poor taxpayers of Richmond, of Linden that paid for my scholarship sometimes when it was so hard to even follow.
Hold on.
Yes, sir. When
were your companies incorporated? I'm bringing you back to the actual subject.
Fabulous.
When were your companies incorporated?
The company Richmond Luxury I am not quite sure the date but it was incorporated. I knew I bought it in 2013 with 2 attorneys being my representatives at the time of the closing.
From the date of incorporation to today's date, you have not issued any shares to anyone.
I am not quite sure of the corporate
It's your
structure.
company.
Yes, sir. I'm a bright person. I'm a physician.
Well,
I know
you
medicine.
can be bright enough to tell me.
You asked me a question. I'm going to answer you, Mr.
Right.
Chase.
So you have not issued any shares.
I do not know if any shares were issued. Whether or not, it's inconsequential, sir, but I will give you that information in 48 hours, and I'll ask my counsel to produce that information and give it to you.
Again, I'm asking you this.
Yes, sir.
In the period that your companies were incorporated, can you show capitalization for these companies?
You're asking me financial and accounting questions, Mr. Chase. As an owner of a company, I think I'm supposed to privy to some of that information, but I prefer not to talk off the top of my head. I would love to wait until I have the facts and share them with you, sir.
All right. So let me give you a question, not an accounting question.
In short, what Baldo is saying, listen, my name is Dear, but I don't control the details. I don't control the issuance of shares, if any has been issued. Give me some time, let me check with my handlers, the real beneficial owners, and I'll get back to you. Do you agree with that assessment? At least that's what I'm thinking. He's a player, but he's not a big-time player. He's being handled like Sharon Graves.
You were saying to me that since your companies were incorporated in Guyana, all of the monies that were generated to purchase these lands, develop these lands, buy these real estate came from your pocket.
From Dr. Philip Balde's pocket. I funded this project. I purchased it for my money from the United States. Wire transferred it to this country. I provided the development of lands, drains, roads, provided employments for thousands of Guyanese during that development, and all of it came from my pocket. Some of the profits generated, some of the income generated from the sales of the land went towards repaying the $5 million loan, US dollars, that came from United States of America off the back of Dr. Philip Balde in order to provide employment for his Guyanese compatriots, because this is where I'm from and this is where I belong.
Thank you. Next question. Tell us about your relationship with Edamad.
My relationship with Edamad, I've seen a lot of things you have published, and I will say, being in Richmond Hill, Queens, since 1994, Mr. Edamad was an iconic real estate agent and a businessman. He assisted our community in Richmond Hill, Queens, in getting representations.
Sir,
let me finish.
No, hold on. I need to know about your relationship with Mr. Ahmad.
I will consider
the history in New York and Little Guyana we'll deal with later on. But now I want to know about your relationship with Edamad.
I still consider Edamad a friend of mine. I've known him since 1990. He was instrumental in assisting me to help build my practice when I came from University of Miami-Jackson Memorial, the most famous teaching institution in the United States. I didn't know anyone in New York City. I called him and said, Ed, I need your help in terms of getting some publicity. And he did.
Good. Do you have any investments together?
I will refer that to my counsel and provide you with information regarding the structure of an organization if the one that is existing. But you will get that answer in writing as well.
If I tell you that I am aware that you and Mr. Edamad have financial investments in this country, that you are tied, you, Dr. Balde, are tied to Mr. Edamad, where money and investments are concerned. You refer me to your counsel?
Chase, if you want to make that as a public comment, let's make it as a public comment throughout its entirety. Just don't pick pieces of it. You asked me my relationship with Mr. Edamad. Yes, he's a friend, and he's been a friend since 1994.
Right, so then I ask you about your investments.
I asked you recently, I will say yes, and I will reveal its entirety. My investment in someone else's company is my business. But
correct.
Let me finish first.
Correct.
And I have the right and liberty to do it with my own monies. If in fact it's contravening the laws of the United States, I will withdraw my monies from his investment. It's a partial amount.
You're making a commitment now to withdraw from EDAMAD.
I have not made a commitment to do anything. If it's not legal, I will withdraw.
Let me perhaps tell you the illegality here. You are aware that EDAMAD was convicted in the US for fraud. By way of his release, he was given, ordered by the court. He was given certain conditions, one of which is to stay away from real estate. If you are investing in EDAMAD's business or vice versa, and he has dirty money, doesn't that make your money dirty as well?
Chase, you will know how happy I am that you're giving me facts that I didn't know of. And I will ask my attorney.
But EDAMAD is your friend. He's your friend. You don't know since 19 whenever.
My friends were my parents, who are the greatest persons in my life. I am my friend who has to do all my work. Well, let me answer your question. If whatever you say is right, and I know you have an attorney's license as well.
I do not.
You're not an attorney. I will consult with my attorney the minute I leave your interview, sir, and be able to say, is the money that I invested from United States of America that came via my US bank account, is it safe? And if it's not safe, I would like to have my money back. And I will let me ask.
That is not the question.
No. Let me tell you. I'm not an attorney or a CPA.
But that is not the question. The question is your investments with your money directly seems to be okay. You are avoiding the question on whether you have direct investments with EDAMAD. That's what I'm asking.
I have direct investment with a company that's associated with EDAMAD.
Right.
If, however, it is deemed that 1% or 2% of my total net worth invested with this individual becomes a question, a moral and an ethical and a legal question, I will be out of it as fast as I can on advice of counsel. I do not know the laws of Guyana, and I will depend on counsel to tell me, doctor, your money is protected or it's not. My role here, Travis, is not to get into dirty business with PNC, PPP, EDAMAD, and Sharif Awad. It is to tell you that Dr. Philip Baldeo, yes, you call me a multimillionaire. Yes, I am. I work 18 hours a day. Third, for the entire time I'm in the United States, which is over, 40-something years now. And every day I work because I have it within me that I care for where I came from. And my philanthropic effort that started in 2014 with the purchase of Richmondville.
Before you go on, what's the name of the company that you and EDAMAD got together? What's the name of the company?
I will get you all of that information, sir.
Man, Dr. Baldeo, this is your company. This is your money.
It is not my company, sir.
Okay.
It's someone else's company which I invested. Now, I will go when I leave this interview. I will go when I leave this to find out what the nature from the attorneys. What is the nature of my investment? Is it a shares?
It's someone else's company. Did you hear that admission? It's someone else's company. I don't know. It's someone else's company. I work hard. I work 18 hours a day. How often did you hear that? I heard Sharon Greaves say yesterday through a statement that $750,000 property and whatever other acquisitions he had, including the blind trust and so on and so forth, they were legitimately acquired. But take its income and put it alongside that legitimate acquisition and ask yourself, where did the funding come from? Who is he in bed with? And the same question stands. Is Wells Company value you're talking about?
This agreement? Is it for 50%? Is it for whatever the percentage? And I will come back to you on this program. If you provide me,
you
provide me with everything to explain anything that we're not able to get to today. What I want you to say, because as much as your company, your media has actually maligned my name, maligned the purpose of, and even misrepresented. I'm not a practicing physician. I'm on an FBI investigation, etc., etc. I travel here frequently over the last year.
It's an investigation, sir. I can confirm that there is an investigation.
I would love you to share it with me.
No, I can't do that.
Oh, why not?
I can't do that.
I would share anything with you.
Do you know the name Zelamine Belletrue?
Zelamine Belletrue. I know a lot of names like that, but I can say quite honestly, no, I don't have an independent recollection of the name.
So you have never sent money through Edamad or by your own self to Zelamine Belletrue?
Absolutely not. And I've only sent monies to people I'm doing business with, whether to assist with purchase of material, since I have US dollars, to buy them, because I think that's ethical and fair and transparent. And that is what I will continue to do for the rest of my life.
Very well. So the persons that you constantly send money to in Guyana or through, are they tied to your company? Are they anywhere on the company documents?
Well, you have to understand the business arrangement. If I'm buying from you a property that's worth $6 million and it's in the process of being constructed, I have interval payments that have been made on timelines of construction. So at that point in time, I send you money when it becomes necessary.
Send who?
To the persons who are building for me, because I owe it to them and I want my property and I want to have it finished so I can set up my restaurant, my Afro-ethnocentric restaurant, which I'm going for a meeting tomorrow.
Very well. So in closing.
Are we closing so far, sir? I'm pretty sure you can give me some more time.
I do.
Can you give me 5 minutes more? Because you have a lot more questions. You accuse me of human trafficking.
No, I didn't accuse of human trafficking.
Well, let me explain to you. I will explain to you the way it is.
Isn't it true?
In 2000,
I will give you the question, then you can elaborate.
Thank you, sir. I will.
Isn't it true that you were sued in the United States for abuse and harboring an illegal immigrant and paying him less than $200?
You've said this so eloquently, Mr. Chase.
But that was a lawsuit.
No, you've said it so eloquently. I would not even be able to say it so eloquently, even if I was to go back to school. And I spent 16 years in university and college in order to make my first check as a practicing physician,
Dr.
as an American board certified physician. What I want to say to you,
Dr. Balio,
what I want to say to you, let me put the facts to you,
Chase, but you haven't answered the question.
Yes.
Is it not true?
You will have access. Yes, it was true.
You can elaborate. You can elaborate now. Go ahead.
If in 2019, there's a property as a black person, an immigrant black person living in the United States, you have no idea unless you've lived in the United States. It's a rough place to live, especially as a professional, especially as a successful professional, especially as a successful professional who moves beyond their field to go into real estate, philanthropy, and other things. In 2014, I purchased a property in Chelsea where no other person, well, to my knowledge, a black person like me actually is supposed to own a property. However, I was supposed to develop the property. What happened eventually? I got charged for something, not charged. The city thought I was doing Airbnb. I rented it to someone who then decided to do Airbnb. I had nine apartments in this building and rented it to that person who then did Airbnb. Airbnb sent notices for them, and then OATH, which is the Office of Special Enforcement in New York City, sent messages to them. It's illegal to rent for less than 30 days. They ignored it. The notice came to them, and then lo and behold, in 2018, I got a nicely publicized article, the first time in my life appearing in the newspaper. I thought it was
New York Times.
New York Times, I think it was, sir. And Queen's doctor doing that. They never said the Queen's doctor who built 100 units to give employment to Guyanese who are displaced when the 9/11 took place on my own money and rented them so they can actually start putting their own business together.
So that matter has been withdrawn from the court.
I'm going to tell you, settled, is withdrawn, and everything else. In 2008, went to the projects in Brooklyn, New York, found that more Guyanese were living in the projects, built on my own money. 78 toddlers and infants, etc. Daycare center that cost me close to $3 million, and gave it to that community, which never had anyone investing in them because they were black, because they were poor. I knew I was black, and I could invest in you, and I had no apologies. I am black. In United States of America, I am black.
Okay.
I am a black person of Indo-Caribbean descent. Okay. And I hate when you guys started marginalizing Guyana with you being black and you being. Let me finish first, Mr. Chase, because I'm coming back. I'm coming back to you again,
please.
Because bottom line it is you are making me as somebody who's gone against the law. In 2018, when I said that thing took place with Airbnb, my name was all over the place. The politicians who eventually recognized that, oh, this is not the person who does this sort of thing, but it already went before the courts. Defended it, total negation of it, because I did not receive a dime out of the Airbnb money. They made over millions. I got my rental income, which was like $25,000 a month from my 9-unit building.
And what happened to the immigrant?
No, that's in 2014, 16, 17, 18. 2018, I started to redevelop the property because I wanted to increase the value of it. Hired a team to work for me, including West Indian. Well, it was primarily West Indians, including this Guyanese Indian, who I never knew. It turned out that when they were taking monies but not doing the work, and since I lived almost about an hour and a half, Queens, Richmond Hill, Queens, to Chelsea, New York, in traffic, even though it might only be about 20 minutes, 20 miles, it's about an hour and a half, and I don't have that time of the day to spend. I basically would go there maybe every 3 to 4 months. But initially, as the project started, they started to draw more money. Eventually, I saw this person who looks like me, talks like me. I said, "Where are you from?" He was from Guyana. I said, "Look, I want you to start taking care of the project from now." When he took care of the project, he did odd jobs for me there and there. He was not my employee. He never was my employee. However, very skilled person, very good at what he was doing. I'm happy to have him around. I always like to employ my own person, my own country person, because I was
saying employ again, and he was not your employee.
Meaning he was not. He had other jobs he was doing. He was subcontracting for me. Meaning, if I have a plumbing job to do,
so who paid him?
I paid him.
And is not your employee?
No, that's not the definition of it. Is he could be a 1099 employee, W1. What I'm saying to you, if you work for me, I pay you. You're my employee. You are some employee of mine, but I don't own you. What I'm saying to you, you have someone who has a skill. You need your work to. Let me finish first, man.
Please do not try to belittle my intelligence. If you are paying him, you're his employer.
I was not his exclusive employer. He worked elsewhere. However, when 2019, when COVID hit New York
City, you employed him partially.
I employed partially, sir, if you want to use that word. He worked elsewhere, made income from other places. And he lived separately, had his own workplace, had his own thing. If I need work to be done, I call you and ask you and I pay you. In 2019, when COVID hit New York City and it was the epicenter of what was taking place, I still continue as a practicing physician. Even most of my friends in the field had left and worked in the emergency rooms in the afternoon, in the nursing home carrying bodies. He reached out to me and said to me, he's got a little baby in the Bronx who I met about 2 or 3 weeks prior to that. I never knew he had any kids. And said that he would like to be close to them. Can I give him one of the rooms since the building was now empty?
Could we put this lawsuit matter to rest by telling me exactly where it is right now? Is it settled?
Lawsuit has been settled totally, meaning the powers that be that brought the charges have basically decided there was no merits in it. But I would probably ask counsel to explain it to you better than I can explain it, because there was no merit in it. It's totally dropped and has not affected me in any format.
Did you go to jail? Did you go to jail in New York?
Absolutely not.
You were arrested, though.
I was. Yes, I was. And erroneously arrested. Coming into my office, arrested by 12, person of my height, arrested by 12 detectives, taken down to the booking, and basically could not find a reason why he was being held.
Is the precinct? Which one of the precincts? Is it
Central Street? However, the thing of the story is that do not think that in the United States of America it's an easy business. I am a U.S. citizen and I would like to remain to the rest of my life. My only hope is that I can continue to contribute to Guyana under any regime, as I did. I asked Vulcan and I asked, what's his name? He wrote a book. I can't remember his name, Mr. All right. To ask to assist in some form of giving housing to people in Mackenzie, in Linden. And I cannot understand why you would refuse to do it. I have never been given anything by the PPP or been affiliated in terms. Yes, I would give donations as any person would who has a business. And I would be happy to be part of any government in Guyana who wants someone who's came from the bottom and who doesn't need your money to make him rich or to educate him, but is willing to give back to his country. Because I understand my roots. I know you have some association with Plaisance. My father, a taxi driver. At the riots in '63,
Dr. Baldi, hold
He
on.
was basically the
Hold on.
only reason why we survived.
We're going to go
because-
back. We're going to get there.
No, I will tell
You
you.
sound like a historian. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to listen, but not right now.
Thank you, sir.
I have 3 other questions for you that I'd like you to clarify for me.
Yes, can I drink some water?
Yeah, you can.
Thank
You
you,
can drink
sir.
anything that you want. 3
No
questions.
alcohol. I never drank in my life. I've never smoked.
Bless you. 3 questions that I want you to clarify for me. The lands that you have at Heroes Highway at Mocha Arcadia, you had engaged the Central Housing Planning Authority or the Ministry of Housing to acquire that.
No, I bought it from an individual or a
And
company.
that individual got it from where?
I guess they're owned by either CHP or the sugar worker.
You've seen the documents?
I've seen some documents.
And don't you know where which company is that?
I don't know the name of the company, but I can furnish all of that. I don't want to speak out the terms, but I'll furnish all of that to you, sir, anytime you want.
So you buy land.
72 hours, I'll ask Mr. U.C. Anderson to basically, sir, I'm mentioning your name. I hope you would. To basically have all of that information to you.
Thank you. That's one. Do you have any lands at Ogle?
Do I have any lands? Personally, my name? No, I do not have any lands at Ogle.
But you are...
I would love to have a piece if you have one.
You are in business with someone who has land at Ogle.
Yes, I can.
30 acres perhaps?
I don't know. I've never measured it, but I think it's around that number.
Right. But you are in business with that person?
Well, I can say yes, because I paid money towards it, but I want to...
And that is an amount you're talking about?
The company is what I'm in business with. I'm not in business with any other person, but I'm in the business.
Dr. Baldio, this is the most important question of all. Are you willing to subject yourself to a lie detector test by the FBI, specifically about your funds, another source of income, and your ties to Edamat?
I would willingly do that, Mr. Chase, if you can also subject yourself to the same thing as to how you get your information, as to whether or not you're being funded by another organization which is asking you to put a law-abiding Guyanese medical professional of over 35 years practicing in New York City for the benefit of the Guyanese diaspora in both Richmond Hill among the Indo-Guyanese population and the Afro-Guyanese population in Brooklyn.
Dr. Baldi,
if I've asked and answered,
you are aware that the FBI would not question me about where I get my information from. You said you've answered the question. You said you are willing to do so.
I am willing to do anything with the advice of counsel. I am not afraid at this point in time of anything. I'm not afraid of the education I acquired. I'm not afraid of where I came from. I was born in Guyana, parents from Plaisance, father from Plaisance.
Good.
Mother from Canal Number 1. I cannot take those out of my genes.
You have...
My DNA is to work as hard as I can for everything I have, and I've never been given a dime by PPP or PNC, and am I not looking forward to anything? No. What I'm asking for, can I contribute to this land where there's so much corruption in all aspects?
You said corruption?
Of all, let me finish first.
You said corruption?
Of all persons.
You said...
There's so much corruption. It's 25 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. Should we continue with this interview or should we open up the lines? Well, y'all answer the question. Should we continue the interview or should we open up the lines? Note, the lands that were so integral to the construction of Heroes Highway was sold to Dr. Baldio through a third party, according to them. So you mean to tell me this land that all them families get displaced from and so find themselves in the hand of some third party who sold it to at least a section of it to some other third party? Can you believe that? And you're all talking about one Guyana and black people sitting on their arms and praying for Jesus Christ to come and remove the PPP government? Black people, wake up. Let's go again.
Right now, I think the two persons who are running the country are the greatest persons to run it at this point in time. But please allow us to contribute. If we have a skill in one particular field,
who are the two persons in the country?
Well, obviously the president and vice president are great persons. They run the country well because without them, PNC was a failure. I'm not saying the persons of African descent were a failure. The party organization was a failure. They're great people.
Well, since we're there,
let me finish.
You said on Facebook
Yes.
that you helped to put the PPP into power.
What I helped to do when I met Dr. Chetty Jagan.
Hey, Jack, you and name finally because they allow me to partake in the corrupt schemes. That's what Baldio just said. The lines are open 6225933 is the number to call. 6225933 is the number to call. As long as you allow corruption and thievery and covetousness and grabbing of state assets and so on, you are a great leader. And it doesn't only come from Baldio, because it has come from a lot of our very own people. Right home here, a lot of them say the coalition is none for we, because they didn't allow us to push the drugs, and they didn't allow us to steal, and so on and so forth. Call your life. Call it on, and you know you have to turn off the device that you're listening to in the background.
Good morning, Brother Gaddafi. Yes, the cheese so that the TV is close proximity. Sorry, my apologies. I gotta laugh this morning. You got me laughing, rolling with laugh in this place, man. This place, stop it. Please look at blatant corruption. And I think that the land, I can question it. Isn't that same land that they question in Mocha Arcadia that they broke down the people's place? I'm not too certain. Anyhow, but I have to say that let me come off of this subject matter a little. I have to say that our people have to unite. What I'm seeing here today on the opposition side, it seems so when the elections start that the people will be going back in government. Why I say so, you have about 33% of the vote from the Guyanese side, the opposition. You have 3 political parties now fighting those votes. You don't see nobody trying to make no inroads on the PPP side. Let me be clear. You're going into the Indian community like Buxtonian and LB and certain PPP stronghold, and you're not seeing on the PPP side no defection, nobody coming out to the party and forming the party. You see all the groups coming out and showing party, thereby weakening the support of the opposition, because I think her say, I can be wrong, allegedly that she will collate in parliament, which means you're making the elections by yourself, contesting as a single party, and thereby weakening the opposition's vote. All right, you're going to parliament, and elections, the thing is that the single party with the most votes win the election. You're going to the party, the election, and different parties win whatever amount of votes. Combined will be more. So then, most times when the other party in government vote to pass a bill, you veto the bill, the combined opposition. But it is more important for you to do that coalition before and become a combined government than going into the National Assembly separated. Because these people have shown quite clearly that even if you get one seat, they'll just behave like the entire thing will not take all. If you're following clearly what I'm saying. You understand? If you're following clearly what I'm saying. So what he has effectively done is, they said she got about 1,000 votes. Every vote counts. She got about 1,000 supporters. So I'm hoping that those alleged support that she has, that those people become conscious and said, look, even though we're in this party, we are a member of the EL, what do they call it? EL. We got voted. Because I say, let me put it clear, Kidaki. You know, I'm lying and I don't want to make a program. Let me show you something. Blood don't unite and form a cohesive part. AFC, MC, and all they will suffer triple more than happening now. You understand what I'm saying? I see those do the recipe for pasta.
Call it, thank you for your call.
Me? You're welcome.
There are lots of recipes to disaster out there. Y'all could continue identifying them. I'm interested in identifying recipes to disaster. My interest is in getting rid of the disaster. Right now, the PPP seems to be the biggest disaster in this country. But I want you to recognize who they're disastrous for. There's no doubt that the actions of the PPP, are their friends, family, and favorites in terms of the corrupt transactions and dealings that are taking place in this country are detrimental to every citizen. They're detrimental to every citizen. But if you want to look at it, as I might say, per capita, you'll come to realize that the biggest sufferers are going to be Afro-Guyanese. The biggest sufferers are going to be Afro-Guyanese. Because even when they covet all of these lands, when they occupy all of these lands, when they misappropriate all of these lands, and they establish, like Baldio say, in the buildings, they're building hotels, they're building homesteads, they're building this, they're building that. First and foremost, they provide employment for Indo-Guyanese. So even though there are going to be Indo-Guyanese out there, even though there are Indo-Guyanese out there who are affected by this corruption, their burdens are lighter because the corruptors will employ them. It is the Afro-Guyanese who will kick brick. Because since the majority of the resources in this country will be corrupted and controlled by Indo-Guyanese, as it would appear, then obviously Afro-Guyanese ain't got nothing to turn to, or very little to turn to. Are you going to wait until, as they say, both Ghana files and you can't turn back? I mean, both Ghana files down. But we still got a chance of turning it back before it reaches destruction level. I mean, well, I'm really asking myself, isn't it destructive already? I'm saying this and I'm saying it clearly and loudly. Unless African Guyanese come out in the numbers in the 90% and 95% and so on and vote, really vote against the PPP, cut it with dinner. If you think it bad now, you allow the PPP to get another term in office. By the hook or the crook, you have to get them out. Morning, neighbor, morning, are you morning? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kidaki Amsam. It is now 7:25 on the 6th day of February in the year 2025. I am your host. How are you doing? How you been? How was you yesterday? How was your last night? How you wake up feeling this morning? Are you feeling energized? Do you think you are ready for another bout of the PPP? What are what you are thinking? Or you are liking the corruption and the corruption revelations? By the way, Brutus is no longer, or no. Somebody said Brutus gone. I say they would like to see Brutus gone. He ain't gone yet. Brutus is the kind of folk who will go down fighting. He ain't got no easy going down fighting. Right? But that decision by the Police Service Commission, while it might be warranted, is just another example of the abuse that takes place in this country, the abuse that passes in this country for justice and good governance. Because there's so many things wrong with that dismissal. At least the processes leading up to that dismissal. That tribunal was a quack. I also learned from Paulso last night that the Police Service Commission is not properly constituted. And so from the time the current PPP administration took office, when it comes to dealing with the police and the Police Service Commission and so on, it is engaged in so many illegalities now that people might be blinded. They can't tell the difference from what is legal and what is illegal. But it's my firm belief that an injustice has been done in terms of the conduct of the tribunal and the final outcome. Because if you don't have a properly constitutional body, how is it functioning? Right? I think the lawyers might call that, or I'm just stepping ahead of myself, fruits of the poison tree. If the process is poisoned, then the outcome is poisoned. And I'm guessing that Butas is going to go to court on that. I am guessing Butas is going to go to court. And so we got a court battle looming. The one thing is certain is he's not going to be reinstated, I can tell you that. But whether or not he will get compensation, that's another thing. Right? So we have to look at that. I'm not a champion for Butas. I'm not a champion for people who have knowingly done wrong, whether on behalf of the government or on behalf of themselves. But I'm a champion for justice. Right? Justice must not only be done, it must appear to have been done. Yeah. So those are some things. And I noticed Sergeant Bascom was freed of cyberbullying charges in Georgetown. And then on the East Coast at Vigilance, he was found guilty. Right? If you ask me, same or similar facts being presented to two different magistrates, and the outcome is obviously different. So you have Bascom freed in Georgetown with cyber crime charges against for quote unquote cybercrime against Caesar and Rabindranath, I think the name might be. And then a similar charge is read to him at Vigilance, Caesar and somebody else. He was found guilty. That matter has, according to the news, has been appealed. It has gone to the appeal court, the High Court appeal court. And so the magistrate was told to hold her hand. No sentencing until that matter is heard at the higher court. Let's see where that goes. Good. But y'all keep on paying attention to the corruption. Tomorrow I will give you all a laugh because I see it as laughable. The program is going to be ended at 7:30, 8:30 this morning because I have an errand to run. And because of the nature in which Mr. Jordan communicates with the program, it won't be able to continue once I have to leave. Right? Well, that is that. So I'm calling Mr. Jordan right now so you can get at least a full hour with him. And I can head down the road. Mr. Jordan, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you. Thankful Thursday, man.
Thankful Thursday, man. That's quite watching the goings on, wondering if I could get a 30-acre land anyway to invest in. Or even 110 to 30 acre, you know. But I guess you didn't have to end with MAD or DO. So
I see in his resignation, sure, and Grief says whether be acquired, you work hard for.
Of course.
I will tend to believe all, particularly Guyanese of African descent in this country, you had to work extremely hard for the very little. Because when you look around, you can't find too many Guyanese of African descent who own anything worth shouting about. You know.
Yeah, the other angle I look at it from is dishonesty and thievery causes a lot of hard working. People believe it's easy work. The amount of, you know.
You're right, you know, I mean, because the effort that teams put in, the stealth and all the different combinations that they use to enter people's home or whatever, many times on cart and so on. That requires a brain that is overactive. You know, your brain doesn't sit down and work that out that easily. You know? But anyway, it's thankful Thursday and glad to be in the land of the living. You know, so many have passed over the last week. I see there are about 7 road accidents alone, all ending in deaths, and so we all got to be thankful for being alive. You know, and while at it, may I express condolences to one of my lawyers, Mr. Rizel Ford, who lost his mother, I think, last week. Condolences to him and his family and his relatives, and so on. And may she rest in peace.
Let me join you in sending condolences. I wasn't aware.
Yes. That always works in 2s and 3s because last year, sometime late last year, he lost his brother, you know, and now his mother. So, you know, I had that same experience also. So I understand and appreciate things. Loss of any loved one is always a major issue, much less loss of a mother. You know, that makes it worse. And I'm surprised that you, being a lover of the arts, you were an active participant in the arts and so forth. You did not mention anything about or acknowledge the passing of Ken Carsby. Remember Ken Carsby?
Yeah, I remember Ken, but you know, sometimes I think I live in a bubble. I didn't even know Ken is dead.
Yeah, she died, I think it's 2 days ago or so on, at age 94. Okay. And even though I never met him or so on, I really loved his performances, especially in them two, Ken Carsby and Mark Matthews, you know. And his passing also made me become very nostalgic about theater back in the day, you know, when Theatre Guild, you know, was the premier institution or premier arts institution as it's related to acting and so forth. You know, people like Ken Carsby, Mark Matthews, Ron Robinson, Ray Robinson, Roland Phillips, Margaret Lawrence, yes, Francis Kwame Nafario, Andres O'Brien, Roy Brummel from Gango Time, Ronald Hollingsworth, you know. So those are among some of the stalwarts of theater in Guyana. So Ken Carsby, man, rest in peace, and go play with Dave Martins. You know, Dave Martin had actually acknowledged Ken Carsby in one of his tunes. You remember that tune? I hear a story from Ken Carsby.
Yes.
Cricket in the jungle.
Yes. You could sing one. Right. Yes. Oh, you never come to the karaoke.
Yeah. So yeah. You know, there's a lot to say today, but I don't know. It's only an hour, and so maybe we'll have to continue the conversation maybe next week or so. But before I get to the full topic or topics, I noticed a poll is running wrong, and a lot of people seem to be making issue of this poll. I first learned about it seriously on the Norman Brown show a couple of weeks ago when I was there, and he was referencing it and so on. And at that time, he was asking me to comment. Well, first of all, I can't comment on something that I haven't seen or have read or so on. I can't comment on second-hand information based on what you tell me what the poll said and so on. But generally, I said to him, when it comes to Guyana, polls that has to do with elections or around election season really and truly really don't have much worth. And nobody should be paying much attention to them. You know, look, I know something about polling because I did it in statistics and I did it in advanced statistics and all these kinds of things, you know. So polls got advantages, you know. I mean, you know, polls, they can provide some kind of insight, albeit limited, into preferences and, you know, beliefs of groups, small groups of people, you know, and on that basis you can, you know, bend or suit your decision making, your policy making, and so on. You know, polling results also can inform policy, can track, you know, potentially like the income of elections and so on. And also, of course, polls can help candidates and governments to decide where to invest, you know, their time, where to invest their campaign funding, where to invest their human resources and so on. So I mean, polls got its positive and so on. And when well constructed and well designed and so on, they can be useful. But in context of Guyana, bifurcated society, heavily racial, heavily ethnic, and so on. And, you know, I said bifurcated just now because you have two groups of people, two ethnic groups of people who are almost close in terms of number. When you try to conduct polls in these kinds of society, you really have to be extremely careful of how those polls are designed and so on. Of course, polls are based on sampling, you know, random sampling sometimes. And some of these sampling, they're done by interviews, either over the phone or people going into the fields. Now, all of those have enormous biases in them in relation to Guyana. You know, I mean, if you send an Indian person into a black community, predominantly black community, and ask them questions, what you expect to hear, or what you're likely to hear. Similarly, if you send a black person in an Indian community, what are you likely to hear? Even if you get a response at all, you understand?
You see, that is why when that is why a few weeks ago when my friend and follower viewer Dennis Champagne asked me about the result of the straw poll, I told her to leave me alone. Because anywhere you post that poll, it's going to give you a different result. If that poll is posted on the PPP pages, you're going to get a different result if it is posted on the opposition pages. You know, the PPP might even send people to vote on that poll on the opposition pages to give you the kind of interpretation that they want.
You know, so and you know, of course, how the sample was picked. That's the first thing. I mean, I understand this poll picked sampling based on not the current census, unless of course they might have had access to the current census. But in terms of the percentages of representation in population, that's perhaps the 2012 census, based on the numbers that they extracted in terms of the representation, you know. And since apparently the new census, based on what we're hearing, shows some substantial differences to the 2012, it'll be very difficult to use the 2012, which obviously is the only one that you have anyhow, to really say that your sampling is random, number one. Number two, of course, who funded the poll? Who funded the poll could also determine, you know, outcomes of polls. Number three, questions. The structuring of the questions. How were the questions structured? If you can structure questions that inherent bias in them already, or you could structure questions that the answer you already know the answer already, and so on. You know, and then regional distribution of the so-called random sample. You know, how many people you got from Georgetown, where in Georgetown, or how many people you got in Region 4, where in Region 4, how many you got from Region 10 or Region, you know, where in those regions and so on, how did you pick them? And so, you know, got a lot of problems with polling in Guyana, so even straw polls the worst of the lot. Those are the worst of the lot. Those depend on who got access to internet, who can get on, who use different combinations. Like you could use 10 different phones and you get 10 votes. You know, because the straw poll may recognize one phone, but you can go use another one and you get another vote. You know, and you could maybe use a different time of the day and all kind of story, and it will register and so on. So that those are. But the point I want to really raise is that people should not allow that poll that is circulated or any other subsequent poll to get them down, because sometimes polls are also designed to make the people who have requested a poll feel good, and also to make their oppositions or their enemies or their nemesis and all feel bad, right? I mean, if a poll comes out and says, "Oh, X party is going to win by a landslide," that has two effects. It has a euphoric effect on the one party who is saying going to win by a landslide, and it has a demotivating effect on, if not the other party, then the supporters of the other party feel, well, I throw up my hand, but I ain't got enough to vote because then people gonna win by a landslide. Those are what those polls in these bifurcated societies are designed to do. And I'm saying to people, particularly supporters of the opposition parties, because I ain't know anything about any coalition, I'm saying to them, don't be distracted by these polls. But in any case, we have a lot of sensible people in Guyana. Right? If I mean, the PPP love to jump out the front, and there are people like Dr. and Bizram and all that like to jump out the front and all people who are going to win by a landslide, they're going to win by 50 seats and all this kind of story. That is what they like to do. They try to demoralize the opposition and the opposition supporters. But there's none of those polls, nor they're saying, that has so far been able to show any wipeout of the opposition. Not even the time when Carbon had lost badly, perhaps the worst loss for the PNC. Even then, it wasn't a wipeout. All right. So I tell our people, don't get things. The recent local government polls, the PPP were supposed to win big in Georgetown, in Linden, in New Amsterdam, and so on. They went out there and crowing. We can capture New Amsterdam, we can capture Georgetown, we can capture Linden, and so on. What were the results? Because the polls, they claimed their polls were saying that. What were the results? Right? I remember way back when the AFC was young and coming up, they had parachuted somebody from United States into Guyana, and lo and behold, that man said he did a poll, and he found that AFC was going to win the elections. You remember that? He said that AFC was going to win the elections. You understand? I mean, of course, everybody realized that that had to be the biggest joke of that season. And what about our diaspora friends? What about the polls that suggested that the recent elections were close? If not, most of them saying that Kamala Harris was going to win the elections. And what was the outcome? What was the outcome? You know, so once again, I tell our supporters, look, don't get distracted. Get mobilized. Don't get distracted. Get mobilized. And if there's anything to be said, whether we don't adhere to the polls or what, it is the fact that we need to galvanize and organize. Galvanize and organize. It was good to hear that the WPA and the APNU met recently. And these meetings need to be concretized and finalized post-haste. There are too many meetings because after you finalize, there's a lot of work to do. There's quite a lot of work to do. And a lot of talking has been going on so far, but little results to count about. Now, this is February. If my memory serves me well, the coalition of the APNU AFC that resulted in the Hormonson Accord, I believe, was signed in February of 2015. Right? If my memory serves me well, I hope I'm right. So this is February, right? We got another 21 days or thereabout to go. Let us use that as the outside milestone to get whatever coalition we wish to get going. Because reality of realities, if it is proven this difficult to put together a coalition, right? I call it coalition of the unwilling, because there don't seem to be willing partners coming together here. This is a coalition of the unwilling. And if we use what is credited to Burnham that the definition of a coalition is a marriage of convenience made in hell. If we add these two together, then I say, why not all the factions and the parties come together, put into a room, and sit down there, and somebody lock it and lose the key until they come out with something that we can run with from now into the election. Can't tell me that you March and then April and May and June, all these outside dates, putting coalition together when they got all these different things to do leading up to election. Let us be very clear for whatever you think about the PPP. They are a well-oiled election machine. They got the advantage of incumbency. They have the advantage of massive monies unheard of in any previous election. And before, they had the advantage of massive sums of money coming to them by private and other individuals, right, who they claim finance things like their overseas lobbyists and all these kinds of stories. So they have huge advantages. You have little to none, unless you get Elon Musk or one of them to come in and spend a couple of millions, throw a couple of millions here to the opposition parties. So you got enormous disadvantages. You start with, and you're adding more and more layers of disadvantages by refusing to come together and form a grand coalition very early, so that the supporters can put a smile on their face. You know, every time I go on the road and I walk, they always, Mr. Jordan, how you do, how things, how we looking? How we looking? That's what they're asking. You could see a bit of fear in their voices, right? Because they believe we continue to scatter and and do everything that is possible to keep us divided rather than united. So for me, I don't want to hear any more about meeting here. We had a good meeting and we had a grand meeting and all kind of things. The next time I want to hear is that people are announcing a coalition, not of the unwilling, a coalition of the willing, prepared with one objective in mind: to remove the present government. To remove the present government and put in place a government of national unity that will govern for all the people of this country. And that we could get rid of all the sleaze and the lees and everything else, and the drugs and everything else that have now infested this country. You would have thought that with all this money, that we could have breathed easier. Unfortunately, the stench that is permeating the air is killing many of us and choking many of us. We need to breathe again. And the only way we can be able to breathe again is if this government goes its way. And the only way they will go is if you have a united opposition of willing, not unwilling, of willing people, because the enthusiasm will be there and they will be prepared to go and fight 110%. But as of now, I don't know. As I said, there was a start made with the WPA and all the enthusiasm I see David with yesterday. But next time around, I don't want to hear anymore. But we met again and we had a good meeting and we had a productive meeting. Those of us who've been around a long time know those are words that are generally used to say nothing much was achieved. We had a productive meeting and we had a good meeting and all this kind of thing. And then you ask what was productive about it. You get well, we met and we discussed issues. That's productive. That's not productive. That's not results oriented. That's not results oriented. A productive meeting is that we will sign next week on the dotted line that we will be going in the elections as one. We will be working on the program afterwards, on the final details of the program afterwards. That is a productive meeting. You don't want to hear no productive meeting that says, oh, we met, and we had a good meeting, we had discussions and so on. That's a useless meeting, a productive meeting. So that's my piece on that so-called polls that they are talking about. So our supporters keep the faith. Now, you have this issue of the budget. So the budget ended last night, the whole process, right? The three-stage process of presentation of the budget speech and the estimates in Parliament, debate on the budget speech, followed by debate on the estimates, interrogation of the estimates, and approval of the measures and call it a four-stage process. The last one being approval of the estimates, the appropriation bill, and the measures contained in the budget that require fiscal legislation. So you had that. And just as about that process was ending, a statement came out from the Ministry of Finance, obviously prepared before, and crowing about the process and the big budget and so forth. Listen, let me tell you, and congratulating themselves and so on. Let me tell you something. This is not a process to be congratulated. Years ago, when we had those small budgets and a small economy and so on, yes, maybe, right? You had 5 days of speech, right? 5 days of speech, debate on the speech, and then we had about 5 days on the estimates, followed by the approval and so on. In a 1.382 trillion budget, the same system is in place. In fact, worse, because back in the day when I used to do budgeting, way back, not really after days, way back days, the speech was 5 days, and you had 5 days for the estimates. 5 days for the estimates. And during the time, holidays when I used to do budgeting also, you have the estimates as presented to the National Assembly. And that is what it has to be. It's being presented in National Assembly for discussion, for debate, for adjustments where necessary, and then finally for approval. And then when the final approval comes, all the adjustments that were being made and agreed by the National Assembly will be incorporated into the estimates, and then you print a new estimate as passed by the National Assembly. This whole process has broken down. Why? Because for the last, I would say, 3 decades at least, so that will incorporate our period, no estimate as presented has been adjusted, and with the exception of one. With the exception of one estimates, and that took place in the 10th Parliament, the 10th Parliament under Ramatar's presidency, when the combined opposition of APNU plus AFC voted down a program, I think one program of a whole program of the office of the president. And I think it had to do something to do with the Amalia Falls story. I think a lot of people perhaps don't remember that, but yes. So the Parliament voted down that. And as you remember, the combined APNU AFC in opposition had 33 seats compared to 32 for the then government of the PPP. Of course, anybody who followed that will know that they had a trail of events that took place as a result of that, because the Parliament having voted down that amount for that program, the government proceeded to put back the amount after the appropriation bill was approved by taking the exact amount from the contingency fund. And this behavior was found to be unlawful by Chief Justice Chang. This behavior was found to be unlawful. And I had the the task. I'm struggling for the adjective I want to use, because that contingency fund remained unbalanced for a long time until we came in. And I had that task of taking that unlawful act to the parliament to make it lawful so that the contingency fund could be replenished. Right? But that's an aside. There was an interesting part of that judgment, I believe it was, where the Chief Justice said that while Parliament could approve or disapprove the estimates being the government's estimates could not be cut by anybody else other than the government. So I found that, I keep reading that, I think, watch that effect, and I keep reading that judgment over and over. I find it to be a very strange development, very strange kind of reasoning, that while Parliament could approve or disapprove the estimates in whole, I think it has to be in whole, that you can't approve or disapprove one part of the estimate, has to approve it in whole. The opposition members could not cut or adjust the estimates because it was the government estimates. Well, that in terms of logics, I found hard to understand, But maybe in law there's nothing logical. Maybe. Because what's the purpose then of the estimates being carried to the parliament? If it's only the government who can adjust the estimates upwards or downwards, then you have no need to take those estimates to parliament. All government has to do is to prepare it every year and work with those as a skeleton plan. They don't have to take it to parliament. What's the purpose of carrying it to parliament? If parliament itself can't adjust the estimates, because approve and disapprove are just, as far as I'm concerned, just semantics. Because if the opposition can cut the estimates or adjust it upwards or downwards, then it will disapprove the estimates if it has the numbers. But anyway, as I said, that is beside the point. Coming right back to these estimates. If 33, that is greater than 32, is going to be able to approve $1.382 trillion in just about 4 days, that is nothing to congratulate yourself. That is a cause for concern. Because you ask yourself how that can be humanly possible if you are to interrogate the estimates in depth. I had the fortune or misfortune of every now and then listening to part of the interrogation of the estimates. The most of it I listened to is the last one when they came to Ministry of Finance. For obvious reason, I must be interested in Ministry of Finance. But I listened all around, and I was horrified. I was horrified at what passed for interrogation. Okay? Because in the first place, because they are limited, they're severely limited by this time that they have imposed upon themselves. I don't know what is the hurry. I do not know what's the hurry. You already made the decision that the budget is going to be late. In other words, then it's not going to be available from the 1st of January for spending in the usual manner. You're already late in the budget. So what is the hurry? You have an outside date of April to have the appropriation bill in place. Outside date of April. But you're hurrying now, after you're done late, to finish it by trying to say that you were able to examine the estimates that contains $1.382 trillion. And you can be able to do that in 4 days. 4 days. And so what passed for examination was laughable. Laughable. That's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is that in almost every situation, the subject minister appeared not to have a broad overall view of what is in the estimates. So in putting together those estimates, I don't know whether they discuss with their officers and so on, whether they sat down ultimately and got a grip of the final product. So you could not put a program to the outcome that they have in the volume 2, which gives the broad program goals and all this kinds of stuff. You could not put them. And this goes for, if not all of them, to be quite honest. One question asked, you say you're going to give 4 goals, you're going to achieve 4 goals this year. Last year, you said you were going to achieve 4, you achieved 1. So you put back 4 this year. So what are the other 3 goals that you're hoping to achieve this year, and how are you going to go about it? You get a bunch of fumbling, and the long and short is that the spending that you have just asked in request for approval, you don't know how that spending relates to you achieving these goals. This for me, as somebody who's been budgeting for a long time, it's a crying shame, and it's worse with 1.382 trillion. It's worse because ministers come to the parliament and give the impression to the parliament, look, I don't care what you say. I will have the final say because if it put to the vote, I got the numbers. So what's the purpose? That's my point. What is the purpose? The time has come with these kinds of numbers that we have in the budget, when the budget should not be passed by a simple majority. That time has come. We can't be spending $1.382 trillion on the strength that it had been passed over 4 days. We can't. There has to be a new process, a process that is more strenuous, that is more vigorous. And you know, this process is marred by the fact that the opposition, which controls almost 50%, is never invited to be a part of the budget process. They're never invited to be part. So their force intimation about the budget is when it comes to the National Assembly, by which time it's too late. Because based on all the previous indications, the government will not move a muscle. They will not switch even one number, no matter what you say. So this is a major problem. This is not a time for congratulation. This is a time for sorrow that the process that has taken place over the last 4 days to approve $1.382 trillion is a travesty. And the time has come for that system to be replaced by a more robust system that will involve, and which in itself put governance on the table. The whole issue about governance, especially in a 33-32 situation. Then, when you listen to this process, you recognize, and it is my view, that any incoming government of the opposition, one of the force departments, or among the force departments that must be put in place, is a DOGE. Got to be a Department of Government Efficiency. If nowhere else, Trump has gone off on a blind and a blim and everything else. But Doge, and the Doge is a right idea, but I don't know that they're actually doing it right in the United States in the way how they've done. But we need a Doge in Guyana, a Department of Government Efficiency. When you listen to the various ministers, you realize the level of waste and inefficiency that is taking place in these ministries and departments. I give you a simple example. When you look at how much money per annum the government is spending on, say, vehicles. It's like if the government gone vehicle crazy. It is like if everybody's competing to get the latest. You know, you're driving an X5, I want to extend. The amount of vehicles, the number of vehicles that are being bought every year in the estimates, the cry is reason and rationality. Take another example, furniture. It is as if every ministry got to buy furniture every single year. And you don't know where the furniture going. And it's not like if in the past days, back in the day, you used to get wooden furniture. And I didn't say anything wrong. In fact, I love my wooden furniture. I didn't want anything else in my office except wooden furniture. Right? Nicely polished and so on. But you know these people are buying these steel furniture and so on these days. So they ain't getting granny sugar and all these kinds of stuff. Maybe they get another kinds of things, but they ain't getting granny sugar. But the amount of the number of pieces of furniture, and then, oh my goodness, you will think that Guyana is a computer literate society. The number of computers that are being bought every single year. Yet you can go to every ministry and you do not witness a computerized operation, much less an integrated operation. So, what is the purpose of all these pieces of equipment, office furniture, and vehicles, and all these things that are being bought? And then the various departments that you have, one tripping over the other. You're not too sure what one is doing. You're not too sure where you got to go and all these kinds of things. But you got all these things. And then you add these 28,000 or whatever part-time workers into the milieu. And you understand what you got. So you got the biggest budget ever. You got the biggest budget ever that is going to have the biggest level of inefficiency, built-in inefficiency. So for 1.382 million, anywhere between 15 to 25% can be cut comfortably just on waste and inefficiency that I see. And just by a level of reorganization that can take place to bring about better results than what is. Because the budget is like the Auditor General report. Both of them got the sameness about them year in, year out. It's like a template. It's like a template. You're just switching numbers and you're playing with words every year. Switching numbers and playing with words. But it's not achieving. There are no measurable outcomes. There's no different way of doing things. It's just adding a layer on the numbers that you spent last year. The classic last night, I remember. Well, I had a lot of classics last night that, the classic last night. Question. I think it was asked by Bola Lawrence. Look, last year you spent, let us say, 300,000 on the refunds of revenue. And at that time, let us say, you budgeted 9 million. So why are you budgeting 9 million again this year? What do you think is the answer? Well, this head here, it's a demand-driven head, is when people come and ask and so on, And yes, we looked and the numbers seem to be somewhere around this number here over the last couple of years. So we'll have a look at it again. I'll look at it again. But you are bringing $9 million when you spent $3 million last year, 300,000 last year. And you can't give a justification for the 9 that you bring in here, and you still get the 9 approved. You can't bring it up. Whereas, if you put there roughly 500,000, you got $8.5 million that can be reallocated to another deserving area. And you see this continuously all over the estimates, all over the estimates, all over the estimates. You're spending $50-something billion on low carbon development initiatives. When asked to whether you produce any reports or so on it, well, look at the royal cussing out. Oh, you had all these monies you were a government minister, and you had all these monies in the APNU government, and you left it lying down there, and you had these solar panels, and a royal cussing out. And what hurt me the most when I was listening to this is that the speaker allowed this to continue. He never answered the question that was asked, but she got a royal cussing out for asking the question. But you're spending $57 billion on the low carbon development initiative, and you can't get an answer for it. You can't get an answer for it. And there's so many more that, you when asked how you come up to 600,000 people for the cash grant, since you're saying that this census, you don't have access to the census and it's not available and whatnot and whatnot. Oh, well, we use different other methods, we have different, it's a lot of obfuscation, a lot of dilatoriness, a lot of non-answers, and this permeated the entire debate. And this is my problem. You're not asking to spend $10 million or even $10 billion in the entire country. You're asking for permission to spend $1.382 trillion, and you can't get credible answers. So what in average, for most part for me were just here or there questions. They're not interrogative questions. They were playing a kind of tag team relay because the time factor. Because of the time factor, they were kind of play, this person asks two questions, no one asks two questions, no one asks two questions, so on, either for the purpose of the answer or whatever. But there was no integrated whole to the questioning. And that comes about because everybody's trying to get in there too, and there one, and there so on. For me, it was a royal puppy show for $1.382 trillion. And this is what I keep stressing. You're asking for $1.382 trillion. And in your statement, you are crowing, you are telling the people. And we have presented a $1.382 trillion budget with no new taxes. They are making taxes into not only a bad word, they are putting taxes in a light which will come back to haunt them down the road. Not only them, it will come back to haunt any new government. Because they are making taxes as if it were a bad thing. Let me tell these people something. You see, in Trinidad, when Trinidad was getting oil a lot and so on, they remove a whole set of taxes. They remove a whole set of taxes. And everybody shout, hooray, this is thing government and so on. When things started to go south, right? The oil finishing, the oil price get low and so on. What is the weapon that they're going to use? That weapon is taxes. You can't be decrying taxes. Everybody is they only think two things that are certain in life. I can't remember who said it, but I keep quoting. Debt and taxes. What this country needs is severe tax reform. Severe tax reform. In which the taxes that you're paying right now can be redistributed. Right now, they are skewed to the persons who face the tax man at source. But an economy that has a high degree of smuggling, that wealth remains untaxed. And until you can do something about it, it's the narrow base that is going to be taxed. So don't crow about no new taxes, because let me tell all our viewers something. It's a switch between taxes and borrowing. Taxes is present day, borrowing is future. Taxes you pay today, borrowing you pay down the road. So you're just switching no new taxes with a bigger budget and a bigger deficit. How on earth are you financing that deficit when the savings can't finance it in full? You're dragging out almost the entire natural resource fund balance. Hold on, this year is going to be the worst of all the years. You're taking 2.5 billion US out of 2.6 billion US earned last year to finance this year's budget. And yet, that only represents about 30% of the financing of the deficit of this year's budget. So where the rest is coming from? Borrowing. So to finance the deficit, you are financing 70% from borrowing. And you think borrowing is free money? Borrowing means you have to pay back. And while the present generation may saddle with paying back a part of borrowing, it is the future generation, the unborn and all those and all of those millennials and whoever else they like call them Gen Z and all of them today, they're the ones who are going to have to pay back for it. And to pay back, it has to come from government revenue. And where does government revenue come from? Taxes. So hollering no new taxes is just postponing the inevitable down the road, because you still got to finance a large and growing budget deficit. Don't be fooled by these nonsense. Don't be fooled by these nonsense. And all this is being done because this is the election year also. All of this is being done. I saw on Facebook this morning an ad out of the Ministry of Human Services as part of our budget speech reaction. We responded something to the effect that under the APNU, PNC APNU, it was the debt they were paying. Each person had a debt of US 3,000, right? 3,000 per head. Now in this budget, we're given 100,000, each baby 100,000 or something to that effect. 100,000. 100,000. So, if you so love babies, why didn't you incorporate the 100,000 throughout? Why only this year? Babies are going to stop born from after 2025? Because it's a one-off. It's a one-off measure designed to fool people, especially poor people. Because rich people in K2 hang about 100,000, they might collect it, but they can't care less. It doesn't really affect them. But and it is designed to fool poor people who, on average, would not get access to it for various reasons. Just like the universal health voucher. Who's going to get access to this universal health voucher? And so on. But there are patchy measures. If you ask the average vendor on the road about universal health voucher, you'll check and see what answer they will get you. I know what answers I get when I ask the people in Main Street Avenue when they ask me one time. I say, you hear about the universal health voucher, 10,000. They said, what is the buy? How are we going to get it? I don't know how you're going to get it. I don't know how you're going to get it. They haven't put out how you're going to get it out there. So you have these things, Kadaki, that are being put out there, forced into people. And forcing them. But back to the budget itself. There's a lot to be unpacked about this budget. People should not allow it to just go because, okay, it's the end of the budget season and so on. These are monies that are going to be spent recklessly in many cases, where you're not going to see the results. And the opposition, I see they go and they get, well, I know they're tired, they've spent a long time and so on, they had a little fun. You have to add your little fun afterward and so on. But in any new parliament comes up, I hope it's radically different. Radically different. Because the Democrats in the United States, not because they are saying opposition, they are not going to be able to make representation for their constituencies and find and make certain that it finds its way in the budget. I don't know what representation the opposition was able to make about their constituents, what they have been able to bring to the attention of the government and have it included in the budget. Again, as I said, because you are only involved in the opposition at the level of the parliament, and very minimally, you don't get your say. I mean, you get to say, but you don't get your way. You know? You don't get your way. So what is the purpose of you being in that parliament? Right? And because of the authority, I'm going to deal with that next week in a more comprehensive manner. And then you have things like projects appearing in the current, and then they're appearing in the capital. In the current, they're appearing as maintenance. So one person called me and says, can we have it? I said, no, you can't have it. You can't have it. It's either the project be rehabilitated or it's maintained. You know, people don't understand the concept of deferred maintenance. Look, you can't be changing two zinc sheets on the roof, which might be maintenance. And then when you go in there, you realize all the boards, or what you call them, not rafters, there's another word for them. And finally, they're all rotten. And finally, the beam is rotten. So you say, okay, we are going to put that part in the capital. It don't work like that. Immediately when you attempt to change two boards and you see that, the whole process change. That whole process has to change. It now has become a capital item. And there's certain, what you may call, look, if you don't maintain a road annually, for whatever reason, and if on the third year you decide now to maintain the road, but only this time the road, instead of having one or two potholes and so on, has several potholes, it's no longer maintenance. It becomes deferred maintenance, which is now a capital item. I wrote the manual and all these things, but I don't know. I don't know what has gone wrong. I don't know what has gone wrong. And, oh my goodness, slush funds. Slush funds, Kadaki. I can name you all the slush funds that I saw all day long. Slush funds all over the place. One slush fund called the poverty program. When I asked last night, well, can you indicate the different components of this program? Well, the honorable member has been long in this house, and the honorable member knows that that is not the question. That is not the answer, Mr. Speaker. You can't use all these buttery compliments to the honorable member for the honorable member to be lulled into a false sense of silence. I call it buttery. You're buttering the honorable member with a lot of fluff. Answer the question, what are the components of the poverty program? You can't tell me you're putting $100 million here and you don't know what you're going to spend it on. What are the interventions that cause you to put $100 million there? What are the interventions? You got a precise figure called $3.something billion on the revision of wages and salaries. And every year the question is asked. Every year the question is asked, what is in there? Prior to 2025, there was a lot of hedging and hemming and hawing because you didn't want to indicate how much you put in there for the payment of salary increases. Okay? Especially since you had no discussion with the unions. So you didn't want to break it out and say, well, this amount we have put for salary increase and so on, because then you're going to incur the wrath of the unions. But you have already agreed to 8%. With all the unions, you have agreed to 8%. And still, you're fluffing and bluffing as to why you can't break out the components of the revision of wages at $3.something billion. And you don't know what are the components. You've been paying bonus to the discipline services now for since you came back. You have an idea of the amount that you pay every year, and still you are not being able to tell the parliament how much you expect to pay this year under that heading. All of this is secret. Fluff and bluff. And this is where I'm saying you butter up the member of the opposition so that they don't insist that you answer the question. And if you can't answer the question, at least you're going to lay over the answer. So why are you asking me to prove $3-something billion without I'm not even knowing what are the components of it? Look, opposition, I know you don't want to put yourself in this position where you were seen to have voted against the estimate. But listen, that is not your... The opposition is supposed to depose, expose, and oppose. It's not to be nice to the government. It's not to take little butter up on little compliments here and slink back into silence. If you can't be aggressive in your questioning and your search for the truth and answers, you will be complicit in the inefficiency that is taking place, and that will take place. You will be complicit. There are too many omnibus items in the estimates, too many. And there are large sums. The SLED program, when I created the SLED program in 2015 as a means of helping poor people who can't get access to banks and so on, I started out, I believe, with 115 million thereabouts. Today, when I look at the SLED program is now running into billions of dollars. Billions! At the same time, when you're having programs like the small business program, community programs, Mrning Fund, poverty programs, all of these are omnibus items that carrying hundreds of millions of dollars. And yet there is no reporting to the parliament. Not even your auditor general who's supposed to give you reports, not financial reports, as seemed to have been the impression last night. Oh, well, you know, with the low carbon development strategy, you know, it is audited. We don't care whether it's audited. That is not the question. The question is, what are the components? How have they impacted communities? How have they made a difference in the life of the people? That is what program budgeting is all about. We're not talking here about the line item, but program budgeting. I think that is what you said. So, Kodaki, I know you say you got to go to the 8:30. I have a feeling it's 8:30 or thereabouts already. Yes, and so I will continue this discussion in a major way during next week, because, like I said, as a person who's steeped in budgeting and who loves budgeting and so on, you know, and now when we have the wherewithal to really make a difference in budgeting and really make every cent count, it seems that we're going in the opposite direction, where because we got plenty, we could waste it. You know, we don't have to worry and so on. So I will continue this next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan, for your usual contributions. Well, you heard it there. It's a pity that we had to cut the discussion short. But I have what one might consider an important appointment. And I have to give myself time to get there. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you all this, because quite frankly, it's laughable. But tomorrow I'm going to tell you all this. You know, I don't hide anything. I usually tell you I'm a business, because it's the people's station #1. And my business is always up on the lantern post anyhow. Right? I don't hide certain things because they are, sometimes I consider them matters of national interest. And so I'll tell you what it is tomorrow though. Can't tell you ahead of time. I'll say good. See you tomorrow. The financial information up there, if you want to do MMGZL, Cash App, or nothing at all, it's right there. Have a good day. I'll talk with you tomorrow. Much love. Stay safe. Ensure you continue to try to make $1 out of 15 cents. Some of us will succeed. Some of us will succeed. Goodbye, y'all.